Have you ever opened a new phone, app, or software and barely touched the settings? Maybe you left everything at default, clicked agree to the terms, and started using it immediately. You're not lazy. You're being guided by something far deeper, far more subtle, and far more powerful than mere habit. It's called the default effect, one of the quietest yet most influential forces shaping human decisions. The default effect is simple in theory. Humans tend to stick with preset options. Whether it's a subscription plan, a default privacy setting, or even the temperature on an office thermostat, the first pre-configured choice is overwhelmingly likely to be accepted. And the reasons go far beyond convenience. There's science here, deeply rooted in human psychology. Researchers in behavioral economics discovered this effect by observing decisions in a range of contexts, from organ donation rates to retirement plan enrollments. In one famous study, countries where citizens were automatically enrolled as organ donors had consent rates above 90%, while opt-in countries barely reached 15%. The only difference? The default. People rarely change what's given to them. Why? Because defaults reduce mental effort, create a sense of implied recommendation, and carry a subtle weight of social proof. If it's the default, it must be the normal or smart choice, right? Think about your own life. How often do you stick with a default setting because it's easier, feels safer, or because changing it requires effort you'd rather avoid? Every time you do, you're experiencing the default effect firsthand. And it's everywhere. From credit card autopay setups to the arrangement of apps on your home screen, from preloaded apps on a new phone to the default privacy settings on social media, this effect silently shapes behavior, nudging millions of decisions every day. Let me take you through a story to make it crystal clear. Imagine Jason, a mid-level manager at a tech company. His company provides multiple health insurance plans every year. Every single year, Jason flips through the options, sighs, and picks the same plan his employer suggested as the default. He never reads the details, he trusts the pre-selection. Why? Because defaults reduce decision fatigue, and humans subconsciously assume defaults are safe, sensible, and optimized for them. But here's the hidden twist. Organizations and marketers know this, and they use it to guide your behavior. Want to increase subscription revenue? Make the highest plan the default. Want to improve privacy compliance? Make the safest option default. Want to influence elections? In experiments, the way ballots are pre-marked can subtly nudge voter behavior. Defaults are invisible recommendations, quietly shaping choices without a single persuasive word. And it's not just about convenience, it's also about loss aversion. Humans dislike change and perceive effort as a cost. Changing a default, even when beneficial, feels like creating work. Our brains calculate it subconsciously. If I keep this as is, no effort, no risk. Staying with the default avoids mental friction, regret, and uncertainty, even when it may not be optimal. Here's where it gets fascinating. The default effect doesn't just apply to software, subscriptions, or organ donation. It applies to social norms, habits, and personal behavior. Consider New Year's resolutions. The people most likely to follow through aren't the ones making radical, arbitrary changes. They're the ones who restructure defaults in their environment, putting healthy snacks in plain sight, setting morning alarms automatically, or subscribing to a recurring workout schedule. Changing your default environment changes behavior effortlessly. Imagine if every aspect of your life was subtly guided by defaults: your finances, health, diet, productivity, even your mindset. Defaults become invisible scaffolding, shaping your decisions day after day, week after week, year after year. The difference between success and stagnation, satisfaction and regret, often comes down to which defaults you follow and which you consciously set for yourself. Take, for instance, subscription services. Companies know you won't read every term or change every setting. That's why auto-pay is pre-selected, premium membership comes pre-checked, and notifications default to on. A tiny nudge, invisible to your conscious mind, pushes behavior in a predictable way. Millions of decisions across society, billions of dollars, hours of engagement, and patterns of consumption are quietly guided by this principle. And here's a curiosity loop for you. Have you ever wondered why some people effortlessly save money, stick to routines, and make better life choices while others struggle? Often, it's because the first group uses defaults in their favor, while the second group allows defaults set by others, society, technology, or habit to steer their lives. One preset choice can determine months of progress or stagnation, yet most people never notice it. The default effect also shows up in unexpected ways. Studies in behavioral science show that when giving gifts, people often default to what's easiest, familiar, or suggested, rather than what's truly meaningful. When managing emails or to-do lists, people rarely change default folder arrangements or task priorities. Even dating apps exploit defaults, nudging users to swipe in ways pre-designed to maximize engagement. Here's where it gets personal. You can take this effect and reverse engineer it for your advantage. Change your defaults, and your life can start aligning automatically with your goals. Want to read more? Set a default reading reminder or pre-select ebooks on your device. Want to eat healthier? Preload the fridge with nutritious options so your default choice is optimal. Want to save more money? Automate deposits and bill payments. Every default you consciously set becomes a tiny lever for control over behavior. The subtle brilliance of the default effect is this. It reduces mental friction, bypasses overthinking, and quietly guides behavior toward a predictable outcome. And the scary, or fascinating, truth: if you don't set defaults consciously, society, technology, and habit will set them for you. Your life will be silently directed by choices made by designers, companies, and even governments. Now consider this. A life spent following unexamined defaults is a life spent drifting. But a life where you consciously select your defaults, where you engineer the automatic choices in your favor, is a life of effortless leverage. The small, silent, invisible options become your most powerful allies. So the next time you open a phone, log into an app, or even sit down to plan your day, ask yourself, which defaults am I following without thinking? Which ones are steering me toward outcomes I didn't choose? And more importantly, which ones can I set deliberately to shape the life I truly want? Because once you understand the default effect, you see it everywhere. From the way people buy, vote, and behave, to the habits you form daily, it is the quiet hand guiding millions of decisions. Awareness isn't just power. Awareness is freedom. And once you start setting your own defaults, you begin to live life not as a passive participant, but as a deliberate architect of your future.